an AMI digital exclusive.
Hi, I'm Paul Duncan, and I'm at South by Southwest. I work for Amazon. I'm a design technologist. I've previously worked at the BBC, and I do my best to try and educate developers everywhere to make web accessible. So one of the things I look at when I get a design from a design team, whether it's pictures and flow diagrams, I look at the design team and I question them and say, explain to me the semantics of this document. What's the content? How is it structured? Where are the headings? Where's the steps? And if they can answer those questions, then I'll accept the design and make it into HTML. Because if I don't understand the semantics, I can't make it accessible. Once I've got that and I've got that clear, then all I'm doing is laying out semantic HTML. And semantic HTML is accessible. I specialise on the web, so I know about web development. I know that making things accessible is actually easier than making them not accessible. If you follow the standards, the W3C specs on HTML, CSS, and stuff like that, it's really hard to make things unaccessible. It's like if you do your job properly and follow the specs, it's accessible. Basically, we've got too many people who add layers of complexity and actually end up making it worse. So it's not a business case, really. It's doing your job properly. If you're building solid foundations, you're building a house, you want to make solid foundations. You build the web, do that. But there is a lot of awareness now about being a good web developer. There was a time a while ago where a lot of the big companies were all hiring fungible software development engineers who could put their hand to anything. And it's definitely been realised now that the front end of web is a different mindset. It's a different skill set that's required. So you need to be very fussy, but also realise that you're going to write code that you're going to send out into the world, and you've got no idea whether it's going to be read on a screen reader or it's going to be used by Alexa on this side or a TV or a phone. So you've got to realise that your code has to be flexible and adaptable, and we do that with progressive enhancement. So progressive enhancement was an argument that was around a long time ago. Build websites and we layer stuff on top of it, and that disappeared for quite some time, and I think it's back now, and I think we're getting the message through again. And the main thing I'm talking about when I talk to my design team and the developers is don't make the UX accessible, make the content accessible. So something like an accordion which expands up and down. They look at that and they go, right, I know can build this. So they build it using JavaScript, they hide content off the screen and build in interactions. But in fact, if you look at the actual content, it's just headings and information, headings and content. Really, they're just lists. They're just blocks of text with headings. And by making them into tabs and stuff like that, you're actually making them more inaccessible. Focus on the content and don't make the UX accessible. So one of the most important things is actually to test with real customers and see how they're using the assistive technology. Because I said, I work on the web and I look at how the accessibility API is exposed to the code and all this stuff. But it actually comes back to a user using it in the end. And you don't have to do lots. You just have to make sure you do some to start with, because it will just change the way you perceive things. I've sat in rooms and watched people struggle over things that we hadn't considered, even just, regardless of whether it's accessibility or not. And also their feedback is great. They can say, oh, by the way, it's really annoying when I have to do this, 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 and this to get to this. And especially if you get developers and people who are building this stuff to actually talk to real customers rather than going through loops of researchers. And some of the stuff I see inspires you to go, you know what? They're struggling. This is something I wrote that's not good enough. And if I make a small change, it's going to make a significant difference to many people. And accessibility doesn't have to be hard. I'm convinced it's actually something that's part of our job. I always love to say when a company says, oh, we need to make our website accessible. I say, hang on, whoa, how did you make your website inaccessible in the first place? You've got fundamental problems way further down the line that's going to mess up accessibility, SEO, maintenance, testing. Because one of the good things about accessibility, another one, is the fact that you can say, if you bring in all this stuff to make it accessible to a screen reader, it's also accessible to automated testing. It will improve the coding, the testing, it will save money down the line everywhere. So with all the advances of technology, it's great to see so many things becoming more accessible. I'm quite sure, I don't know, but the people who invented things like Google Home and Alexa, when they first came up with these ideas, they were like solving problems like turning on lights and stuff like that. Were they trying to build something that's incredibly useful for blind people or for accessibility? I don't know. But it's fantastic that these things are now progressing and we can use them to make more accessible features in the future. One of the problems I find when I'm working with a screen reader is it's not what I do to access the web. And I will never have the experience or understand how people use them, and also how people using screen readers to get around bad UXs, because they do things that I don't know they do. So that's why I like using the accessible API, so I can actually see what the browser's going to ship to the assistive technology, and then let the assistive technology work out how to use it. But the main thing I say to everybody is when they're trying to play with it, use it and everything, stop looking at the screen. Because when we use it, especially my phone, when I'm swiping and doing my voiceover, I look at the phone. By looking at the phone, you're trying to see, why hasn't it gone down? I want it to go down and it's gone left. and stuff like that. So I always say to when I'm teaching anybody or just talking to people about using screen readers and showing them how to use it, say, do not look at the screen. Cover it up, put a blindfold on them, and make sure they're actually listening rather than looking and listening. The burden is on us to ensure that everything we make is universally accessible. And the reason for that is the content and everything people want to get hold of should be accessible to everybody.
Visit ami.ca for more accessible media.